shadows in the dark, they will lead the way to the hidden pathways of the heart. In that secret place, that is where I find my start.
Welcome to the Shadow and the Light podcast with internationally renowned meditation teacher, davidji.
And heart healer and psychotherapist, Elizabeth Winkler, as we guide you through our unique fusion of ancient wisdom and modern psychology.
Get ready to awaken your true essence, heal your wounds, and transform your shadow into
It's here to remove all our fears and to bring new light. The light is the light that will go to the deep to take us to new heights. The shadow and the light.
Hi, davidji.
Oh, hello there, Elizabeth.
So today, let's discuss a very powerful topic. It's emotional. We all deal with it all the time. We have different relationships to it. Money.
Oh, good one. We have never had an episode on money, so this is very, very exciting. Please take us.
Well, I'm sitting in a room with someone who actually worked your previous life. You were working in finance, am I right?
Yes.
So I'm sure you have a lot of insight. And I was thinking about this. You know, I love this book, Happy Money, Ken Honda's book. I'm always referencing different books, different teachers in my work as a therapist. And money comes up a lot. Comes up a lot in relationships. I mean, we're always in a relationship, but we're in a relationship with money. And a lot of us were raised with particular points of view. And
Wait. Back that up, because that is just so brilliant. This is why Elizabeth just does it to us. It's just crazy. We're in a relationship with money, just like we're in a relationship with our relationships. We're in a relationship with ourselves, about other people. But we certainly are in a deep, deep relationship that has been developed and cultivated since we first understood the concept of abundance ever in our lives. Probably in our first, 3 days on the planet, there was some moment of abundance or poverty consciousness, lack, and that could have formulated who we are 30, 40, 50 years later.
I think this is so deep. It's so fascinating to me. I've done a lot of work on my own self in relationship to this topic. I'll use myself as an example. I did a lot of my own therapy. Even not that long ago, I was doing deeper dives into my relationship with money because the way that my parents related to it, we didn't talk about it. We lived in a home where you don't talk about money. If you ask, I would be a curious child, like, well, how much money do you make? And that was like something you would never discuss, and then I
could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
And then that would be considered rude, right? And then I had relationships with, other people who they talk very openly about that. And so it very much informed how
it's cultural as well.
Absolutely. And then, so it's very much affected how I raised my own children. And I've been in deep reflection with them as well. Often when we are reacting from the way we were raised around something, it's not necessarily the answer. It still has an impact. It still has its
charge.
Yeah. Or it has its own shadow. Okay. Right. So nothing's perfect. It's not like the way that my parents did it was wrong or anything. I'm not saying that, but it didn't work for me. I felt like I didn't really have a lot of understanding around things that I wanted to understand better. Now I have raised my own children. I mean, I'm still am, but they're older. And I've been talking to them about it. And I've also just seen how I've transcended a lot of things and I'm still held back by those prisons, I would say, that I felt I was in when we didn't get to talk about money as a kid. And it's just I'm just fascinated by the psyche and how deep this stuff is. Money is just so emotional for everyone. Just in the last, I think, week or two, money came up in lots of sessions with people. And I was talking to them about this book, Happy Money, Ken Honda. And I love something that he teaches, which is, what's your relationship to money? Look at that. And he was talking once, I think this was in an interview, and he had money, and he said, something he says to his money, like he talks to his money. When he gives his money out, like, he's paying for something, he'll say to his money, well, go have fun and bring back your friends to the money. And cultivating this relationship to money, this positive flowing relationship, let it be like your circulation. It's flowing. It's not, what would you say? Like, there's not a barricade. It's not, which, it's abundance versus scarcity. And so my son and I, this was a few years ago, we were listening to Happy Money in the car, and he was, Ken Honda's talking about, like, when you write a check for something, a large check, and are you angry about it? Like, oh, I can't believe I have to spend this money, and you're putting an energy of, anger or whatever. That's what you're circulating. And can you redirect the emotion to, this is going to help whoever it's going to help? Like, what kind of energy are you bringing into it? Because to be more aware of the intention that you write that check with, or when you have to pay for something, or you get to pay for it rather than have to pay for it. And so there's these small ways that you can shift and circulate the flow of money.
Well, let's just back up a bit. Money is energy.
Yes.
Money is energy. That's like one of our most core things that we all have to realize, no matter what the conversation is. It's energy. And we, of course, just like with love, we apply all these different positive and negative things to how we feel about people and stuff and things. It's the same way if you have like a part of your body that aches, and you could be so mean to that part of your body. My damn hips are killing me. My broken hand, my fingers can't open that jar. My back hurts me. What are we doing? We're chastising or scolding or trying to shame, trying to blame this part of our body that's not functioning in a way that we wanted to or that it used to. And so we start to build up these negative thoughts. And I've always felt we do the same thing about money. If you're kind to it, if you treat it with love and compassion, then you have this like sweet relationship with it. And I love that line, bring your friends back with you.
Go have fun and bring your friends back to me.
Yeah, because that's what we want. We are conduits. We're conduits of love. We're conduits of healing. We're conduits of energy. And we, of course, are conduits of the energy of money. And if our arms are always open, it's going to keep coming into us and probably will keep flowing out to people who need it. You can truly be a conduit. If we can be kinder to our physical body, and if we could be kinder to our heart, kinder to the energy of money, I think we would feel so much more abundant with that. So I just love that concept. As a graduate of the Hoffman Institute, one of the things that you do before you go to Hoffman, and just a quick aside, Hoffman is this place where you go and you emotionally deconstruct yourself and then emotionally reconstruct yourself. I'm a graduate of that program, which I would recommend to everybody, no matter who you are. It was sold to me as a leadership program. It's actually an emotional healing program. So this was like a core component of Hoffman setting up. They ask you 700 questions. And essentially they say, who'd you get this trait from? Your mother or your father? So, of course, there's this giant scenario where like, oh, well, I didn't like the way my mother handled this thing, so I'll act this way about it. But the beauty of Hoffman is, even if you rejected one of your parents, how they felt about something, you might have responded differently. Let's say one of your parents never tipped. They were like, too bad, I'm not going to tip. So you could either reject that and say, I'm always going to overtip for the rest of my life. Or you could say, well, my dad, he's a pretty smart guy. I think I'll never tip also. And so we don't know, there's no like, oh,
It's both conditioning.
right, your
Yeah,
parent is this
yeah,
way. It could come out
Yeah.
a lot of different ways. So I love the fact that you have sprung this topic on us, Elizabeth. Wealth is not just about money. It's Tonglen. Can you receive graciously, and can you give with enthusiasm and happiness? And sometimes we're better at some of these things than other times. Many years ago, it was my very, very first time even meeting Deepak back in the day during my Eat, Pray, Love journey. And this woman gave me a flower, a woman that I had met like 3 hours before. She gave me this beautiful flower. I felt a little embarrassed. I felt a little resisting. I felt a little, oh, no, 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 no. We barely know each other. You shouldn't. And I didn't really even know Deepak. And he came up to me and said, do you consider yourself generous? And I said, yeah, I think so. And he said, I saw you resisting that gift of that flower that the girl was giving you. And I, of course I was a little embarrassed, like, oh, it was that obvious that Deepak from across the room is watching me interact with this thing. He said, I saw you put your hands up even to energetically block it.
Wow.
This is not abundance. This is not generosity. You must be a generous receiver as well. And it always stuck with me. And that was really like the tip off for me that we are conduits and that we need to be in like feng shui. We need to be like in qigong, just flowing that energy, allowing it to come into us with no impediments. Someone gives me a gift now. I am so happy. I'm so excited. I hug them. I thank them. And I'm like, wow, you actually went to I'm holding up the gift that Elizabeth gave me. This little rattle that she brought back from Costa Rica with a little amethyst in it, which you can't see. But these are the things that make life so special. And really what we're saying is, oh no, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of your kindness. And as I'm doing this, I'm holding my hand up, blocking like a stop sign. And I think this is a really, really big challenge. And I think this takes some time and work. And that's why I like to practice Tonglen, which is the giving and receiving meditation where we breathe in. Well, in the original Tonglen, you are breathing in the pain and suffering of some group or some individual or the planet into your heart, which then transmutes it because your heart can handle everything. And then you flow back healing or kindness or compassion back out to those individuals or whoever that is. That could be a little intense for someone on the first day of practicing Tonglen. So I've always created, let me breathe in healing and let me release fear. Let me breathe in nourishment and let me release constriction. Things along those lines. And now I practice double Tonglen. The first thing I do is strengthen my heart and get very, very clear. Breathing in nourishing things and releasing darkness back into the world. But I'll release it to the ocean, sweet Mama O. I'll release it to the earth, Mother Gaia. I'll release it to the sky because it can handle it. Sweet Mother Earth can handle all of that. So I take in nourishment to build my heart. I release it back out as anything that's not serving me. And then once I'm in that place with a really strong heart, I breathe in the pain and suffering of others. I've been doing that for quite a while. Anytime there's a disaster, anytime there's an atrocity, anytime there's some type of tragedy, I do that. And I believe in the power of prayer and I believe in the power of energy. Einstein said energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And Einstein said everything is energy. So I'll go with him on this one. And I think this is one of those things, Elizabeth, that it's never going away till we take our last breath, our relationship with money. And, they call it currency. And currency flows. Currency is all about fluidity. And the second we stop that flow, begin the stockpiling and not the release of it, because money is meant to flow. At least this is my translation. Money is meant to flow, just like rivers. They're meant to flow. They're not meant to be stopped. even though you do have that Hoover Dam analogy all the
Just
time.
thinking that.
Right. And when you talk about that and when you share that, you're not speaking of it as like, oh, and it's so great, the Hoover Dam. No, it's not a good thing.
Blocking.
It's another blockage.
So how do we block? Think about your relationship to money. So one of the things that we can, going back to the Ken Honda, it's like, so when you receive, you were talking about receiving, being in that space of gratitude, being able to receive. A lot of people are really uncomfortable receiving. I see that all the time. When you get into that, it touches on like deserving and not enoughness and all that. If you feel uncomfortable, pause, notice, and you can train yourself to say thank you. And that will over time become bigger and wider ability for you to be in receptivity because it's a flow in and out. So when you pay a bill, or when you receive money, you are in that flow of yes, in that flow of gratitude. Thank you. I have kind of a funny story, personal story about money. It's going to sound kind of crazy, but I got to tell you the story because I think it was when I was first listening to Ken Honda. And so my sister and I did a little experiment, which had no idea what the results were. But whenever I tell someone to listen to him or read his book, I also tell them this story. And this is a true story. So my sister and I decided, I love mantras. So I said, okay, this is what we're going to do for 1 week. We're both just going to say, money grows on trees. Oh my God, money is everywhere. It grows on trees. It's everywhere. It grows on trees. Oh my gosh, there's so much money. So much money. But it was really like money grows on trees, money grows on trees. And I would go on a run and there are trees everywhere. Call my sister. I'm like, oh my God, there's money everywhere. Well, okay. So guess what happened that week? We both received a check in the mail. Our family has this farm. We didn't know we were getting a check. And we both received a check that week for, a good amount of money. And so that was a surprise. I'm like, did you see? Yes, of course. Money grows on trees. Then, I kid you not, this is the craziest, weirdest thing that happened to me. I got a diamond ring in the mail, like a day or two later. Now, no one told me they were sending me a diamond ring. I wasn't informed. I opened this up. It was from my uncle, my mother's brother. It was like not even like in a FedEx or anything. It was just like in the mail. And I call him and I'm like, what, what's
you
going
a diamond ring in just a regular envelope that went through the U.S. mail?
It was. And I called him and he didn't give me a heads up, nothing. And he said, oh yeah, we were going through some old, heirlooms and we thought that you would like this. I mean, it wasn't like a recent thing or it just happened, the energy. So I'm just saying, this never happened to me except this 1 week when we were practicing this practice. So it's fun to practice these things and to see how it activates you. So I always tell that story because I think it's kind of crazy and it did happen. So work with some affirmations.
I think for you and your sister to both be like in chanting mode, money grows on trees, and then both of you suddenly receive this,
I don't know,
these checks.
The diamond ring thing is kind of crazy. I mean, what in the world? It's true. It's a true story.
There's only truth here on the Shadow and the Light podcast.
Anyway, so when my son and I were listening to this, he was, listening to how the energy you put into money when you write a check and all this stuff. And he said something that I loved. He goes, Mom, because Ken Honda talks about happy money and unhappy money. Right. So unhappy money is from when you write a check from a space of guilt or resentment.
Or receive one from that same.
And so my son, it was so funny. He looked at me and he goes, Mom, what about the IRS? They're receiving all of this unhappy money. What about that? He was like thinking about the impact of like people having to write their checks to the, taxes and all that sort of thing.
I agree with him.
Yeah. Right.
It's either sad unhappy, or really angry money that the IRS is. There's no glee involved in one envelope that they receive, unless you thought you were going to have to pay a big amount and then you got to pay a little amount. But again, that's poverty consciousness. That's great. That's great. We could probably make a list of all those places. The dentists. Are the dentists receiving happy or unhappy money? Certain relationships that we have where we sort of feel like, okay, fine, here's my money. And there are other things where it's like, so exciting. So here's an interesting thing. I've never really gone public. Obviously, people very, very, very close to me know. But, I'm a fan of crypto. All right. I have been a fan and an investor in crypto for about 8 years. No, I'm not a billionaire from this thing, but I believe in this concept. And whenever I stumble into some conversation, I don't wear the shirt and I don't really talk about it. But now, obviously, tens of thousands of people are going to reach out to me and going, which altcoin should I buy? Or what about Ether? Or what about XRP? Whatever that is. Bottom line, people get so upset. Someone will say to me, so what do you think about crypto? And I'm like, oh, love it. I've been buying Bitcoin since way back. And they're like, yeah, but isn't it a Ponzi scheme? Yeah, but, and then they get so worked up. And, we're not getting into like any details or anything along those lines, but just the fact that I am part of this community of believers in this thing called crypto so irritates these other people. Where do you think that's coming from? They get worked up. They get angry. They tell me the 10 reasons why I'm a fool.
Well, I can only draw from my own experience around that. I have people in my life I was talking about crypto not from a place of investment in it, but I was exposed to people who knew a lot about it through my own work. So I was talking to someone in my life about that. This is years ago, who was in finance. And basically that person said everything he said. They're like, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's not going to last. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's going to, from what I'm learning. But the way I would look at it is an attachment to the way things have always been, maybe. And so it's super funny because like now years later, that person and I were talking and they're like, by the way, I was wrong. I was totally wrong. But I wasn't trying to be right, and I don't really know a lot about it, but that's all I can say about that. Yeah. I think we get very attached to the way things have always been, and as we get older, especially, and new generations, and we're now the older generations, and judging the new generations and how they do things, and et cetera. So I think it could be part of that. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I think part of it is their sadness that they didn't get in. It's like you could have bought Bitcoin all you wanted at 3,000. Okay, 10,000. Okay, 13,000. Okay, 20,000. All right, 30,000. And it's 100,000 now. So there were so many opportunities along the way. And those people probably said, fool, there's no use case. There's no foundational case. So I think probably irritation with themselves that they're like, I missed that thing. But that person still, they're too conservative for that kind of thing. Well, here's the beauty of this conversation about money and the energy of money, Elizabeth, is that the concept of money has existed as an exchange mechanism or tool in virtually every single indigenous culture. We go back thousands and thousands of years. It's a tangible form of exchange, legal tender. So the fact that this conversation in some way has existed literally for, 10,000 years plus. We know that people were engaged in exchange in indigenous cultures going back 50,000 years ago in Africa. We know these things have existed, and we know that it's always been an issue. There are some things attached to that because it's so amorphous that everyone can apply their own thing. Like this person who was arguing with me a few months ago, they're like, crypto is the devil. I'm not that attached. I don't know. I just feel comfortable with it. So let's go there. And I think one of the reasons I feel comfortable is a period of my life where I was involved in advising companies on mergers and acquisitions. And we were talking about, deals in the billions. And when you start to interact or have conversations about deals in the billions, once you take that back to the 100 million or million or 100,000, they stop being scary numbers. They're just numbers. They're just quantifiable. We talk about the concepts, like the concept of infinity, or the concept of numbers that just keep going, like the national debt of the United States, which is burning up thousands of dollars every millisecond. Is our national debt increasing? And I think someone a long time ago, who was the first person I knew to become very, very wealthy, I said, "So, does it buy you happiness?" And they're like, "No, but I buy a whole bunch of things that make me happy. But here's what money does. It allows me not to worry about money." That was their sole thing. Having money allows me not to worry about money. And it's always stuck with me. This conversation was 30 years ago. But that always was like, fascinating, fascinating. So we know that there's energy to it. We know that there's people who've had lots of money and lost it. We know there are people who had no money and then suddenly came into it. We know that there's some people who received diamond rings in the mail. We know that all these things exist out there, and we know that money grows on trees.
Yeah.
You prove that.
Exactly. So what about explaining a little bit more your teachings on abundance and scarcity mindset? Because I think as a therapist, we read a book. I don't remember the name of the book, but it was about how our emotions, that typically there's a connection to a person that, let's say, is a hoarder of their money or doesn't spend their money, that they often, let's see if this is true for you, are very internal with their emotions. And that someone who's more generous is more generous or open in their emotional being, right? Emotionally available. That there's often that relationship. I don't think it's
again, it's the energy that's flowing inside of us. That's absolutely true.
Right. So it connects to, scarcity versus abundance. So
right. So this applies to every single aspect of your life. And I have said, although some people roll their eyes when I say it, how you do one thing is pretty much how you do most things. It's rare that you show up and do something totally different than every way you think or do something else. And so I think our relationship with money is our relationship with other people. It's our relationship with the world around us. It's our relationship with our heart, our relationship with what we feel we could do or change or shift. And money just has that crystallizing effect. Because, again, for thousands of years, there's the haves and the have-nots. For thousands of years, there's rich people and there's very, very poor people, 8 billion people on the planet. So many different combinations. What was important? What did we do? What did we spend money on? How did we do it? Now, in the world of mergers and acquisitions, where I spent a bunch of years, it's like matchmaking. The premise is to find a company that can complement some aspect of who you are and what you do. So if this company is particularly lacking in global exposure and you can find a company that thrives globally, well, that would be a great company to merge with. Usually what happens is there's some type of elimination of duplicative functions, which can lead obviously to massive layoffs and all those types of things. But that helped me as well to be compassionate when talking about those types of things. They shouldn't be casual conversations of like, yeah, well, let's cut these 20,000 employees. Let's really have some empathy and compassion, for these people who might have given their lives to a career they loved, and that's going to end. So my feeling has always been to awaken and connect to and truly understand your true conduit nature. And if you believe that you are a conduit of love, of healing, of abundance, of energy, of money, conduits don't hold on to anything. It's like the line from Hafiz, the Sufi poet, "I'm simply a hole in the flute through which the Christ breath flows." Whatever your religion is, if you're just a hole in the flute that the breath is moving through, the breath of the divine, you're not the divine, you're not the breath, you're not the flute, you're just the hole. And holes can't hold on. And so we know that the most beautiful expression of ourselves is when we can allow things to come into us, allow them to merge and mix and have this beautiful fusion in our heart, and then release them back out into the world. Now, imagine if we could do that with money. If we could take money in whatever form it is, bring it into our heart, and maybe this is a Ken Honda thing, I don't know, probably not, bring it into our heart and feel that love and bless that gift that we've received. And with that same inhale, let that abundance come into us and fuel us and nourish us in some way. And then can we flow it out? I remember when I wrote my first, well, it actually wasn't my first book, but my first book in this current incarnation, Secrets of Meditation. And I was so grateful while I was writing that book that I put in the preface that I donate all proceeds from that book to charities. Of course, I never thought that book would be such a hit. And so every 6 months or so, a nice check comes in that I hold for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, and then I move it on to those organizations or those causes that I support or that matter to me. So that's pretty good. I get to, through works that I created in the past, I get to fund current causes and missions. And I remember, I think it was like year 3, the check was just way more than I thought it could ever be. And I was like, what? How's that even possible? And I got a little clingy. That's just my commitment to every reader and anyone who purchases that book in any way, audio book or whatever, that I'm going to just take my proceeds. I can't speak for what Hay House does with their proceeds. I only get 10%. So I can't speak to what Amazon does with theirs or what Hay House, my publisher, does with theirs. But it just felt so right to do that. And that was in year 3 where I was like, whew, I didn't anticipate it. You know, suddenly it's like more money than I thought I'd ever receive. And I'm just passing it along. And now, years later, I feel great about it. I feel so happy that I even got that opportunity because it's kept me aligned with what my heart really wants to do. Secrets of Meditation has always been a rocket ship, and that's been a really great reminder of don't hold on. You can't see me right now, but I sort of have my hands in tight fist mode, as if I'm holding on to something really tightly, but I can't receive when my hands are like this. If I loosen my grip and open my palms, then I can receive. And it speaks to holding on to things longer than you should. Why would you do that? Fear, desperation, those could be reasons. And so if how you do one thing is how you do most things, imagine if you are hoarding, allowing energy to come into you, but not letting it flow out, you're getting constipated. And if you are blocking it, it's not even getting into you. You're blocking it, but you're giving, you will collapse because you will not have any fuel. Giving and receiving are opposite sides of the same coin. And if we do them both effortlessly, I think we just keep elevating our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some story, I don't know the whole story, but I just want to bring it up. There was like a town, they did like an experiment somewhere in Germany. They like created like another currency of some kind. And there were like limitations, like you couldn't have the money more than a matter of months or something. So you had to keep it in flow.
Oh.
You had to spend it. You couldn't save, so it had to be in flow. Homelessness disappeared and all of these things disappeared. And it was...
What town?
I don't know. I heard it on a podcast with Ken Honda. They were talking about it. Uh-huh. I mean, it was just an experiment they did, but it shows that what being in flow does. And when you were just speaking, the word that just kept coming forward is trust. Yeah. It's about trust because so often it's trusting that that's going to flow in. I know when I've had to make big decisions, financial decisions, sometimes I wasn't certain, and it all, because of my intention and that trust, it all worked out, but a lot of fear comes up for people.
Yeah. And we certainly can apply this to the nature of our relationship with money and the nature of our relationship with relationships in our life. And we're not here to judge you or tell you, come on, part with that check. Come on, give that money away. That's not our agenda at all. That's not our, so please don't.
Yeah. Take a look. It's take a look at it.
Right. Hold the mirror up to what's your relationship to cash, to money, to crypto, to anything that's some sort of currency, because it's all energy. It's all energy. And we could probably apply, when you mentioned that thing, I haven't seen a study, but I would love to see a study where it's like, okay, here's how you respond to receiving money and what you do with it. And here's what your relationships look like. Here's the direct correlation of you're a withholding person in life. Guess what? Why would money be any different? You're an overly or overtly generous person in life. This starts with the question, Elizabeth, who am I? Mm-hmm. Who am I, and what's my relationship to the flow of life? Of life, right.
The flow of life.
And then take however many pieces of that spectrum, whether it's love or happiness or money or relationships or commitment or work ethic or food or eating or drinking or not, or habits or addictions. We can just keep going. There's some kind of correlation there.
Yeah. This also connects to like your north, what your North Star is. If your north is, I want to bring, the value, your deepest driving desire, right? What is your deepest driving desire? As your desire, so is your will. As is your will, so is your
deed.
And as is your deed, so is your
destiny.
Right. So everything.
Oh, don't mind us. We're just quoting the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
So this is. We think of intention, with lots of things, bring it into your money. So one of the things, again, this might sound kooky, but why not? Ken Honda talked about being at a party and looking at someone's money in their wallet, like it's unhappy money. Someone was saying, you have unhappy money or you have happy money. Like next time you look, if you have cash, because not many people do, but like if you have cash, like treat it with kindness, treat it with love. I have a family member who, when he was very young, this child, he was ironing his money. Okay. I knew this kid was going somewhere, and he is. So he's much older now, but I remember babysitting him when he was very young, and he was ironing his money. He was like 5 or something. I don't know, very young. And he just had this reverence.
And now he's the Secretary of the Treasury.
But I was like, that is so interesting. Like, it totally stuck out to me. But what if you had this kinder relationship to it? You're going to feel more connected to that north. More of your life will feel abundant. Even if you don't have to have a lot of money for that, but it's going to enrich your life by just shifting the way you talk about your money, talk to your money, when you spend it, when you receive it. Just try these little things and see what change happens.
I have like probably 100 conversations a week with people, and I probably get 3,000 emails a day. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm paying attention to, and people I don't know will share details, intimate details about their life, their relationships, their sex life, their money, their investments, their hard times, their diagnoses, their health. These are all unsolicited. When I'm reading one of these emails or one of these DMs, there's a certain energy that leaps from them. That's the energy of the content speaks to me. And yes, everything is my translation. I feel they're dripping with fear or desperation. And the answer isn't, oh, let me cut you a check.
That was from a previous episode. Do you remember that?
The aggrieved person who just wants the financial compensation.
Yes. We were talking about relationships, and we were talking about family members. Season 3, episode 2, it was on relationships.
What do you really want? What do you really want? I just want you to cut me a check.
Yeah. And you told me you were going to text me every time. You said it happens all the time. And you have texted me several times already. So yeah, cut me a check. It's something you hear all the time.
It is something.
Back to the money issue.
Right. I have to go back and listen to that podcast because yes, I remember that. Cut me a check. So it's not like someone saying, listen, I have a dream and a vision to do this thing. Can you cut me a check? It's often coming from poverty consciousness. I know it can be shifted. You don't like the way your relationship is? We get to change our relationship to everything. How do you want it to be? I know it sounds trite, but sometimes What's the answer to receiving more abundance of the universe? It's being a conduit, which means you got to put it out there. If I flow it, then I'm creating a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. Aristotle said that. Let me breathe in. Let me fill myself. Let me release that. But knowing that as I release it, there's an opening again. I have this opportunity to let something new, something fresh, something different, something abundant come into me. And as long as we remain open channels, that will continue to flow. Can we see ourselves as holes in the flute? Can we see ourselves as conduits? Can we see ourselves as these very, very powerful manifestors, and realizing that whatever view your mother had, you could either embrace it or reject it. Whatever view your father had, you could embrace it or reject it. There's no right or wrong. And we've got the opportunity to go like 6 different ways. Embrace my mother's belief system, reject my father, and embrace his, reject my mother. We can go on and on with what that is. So your flexibility, which is also a very important component of abundance consciousness, your flexibility and fluidity and infinite flexibility is the secret. And I think it probably helps also if you iron your money.
Definitely. What do you think today's takeaway is, David G?
Well, since it is time for today's takeaway, living the light, we've really touched on some powerful things. And one thing we did not address, and that is the painful and extreme weight of the pressure of debt. If you could start today, unless you have borrowed money at like under 3 or 4%. But if you could start today just paying off some of your debt, even $1 a day, even $10 a day, try to get to a place where you are in the process of eliminating your debt. And if you got credit cards, pay them off the day you get the bill. This is unnecessary weight and pressure and tension. Otherwise, number 1, be a good receiver. Be a good receiver. Remember that giving and receiving are both opposite sides of the same coin. So give and you shall receive. Knock and the door will open. Money does grow on trees, as Elizabeth and her sister proved. And so maybe that's not your affirmation, but how about having a real uplifting and powerful money affirmation? I know that Louise Hay has one. Susie Orman has one. Gene Shatsky has one. Everyone's got some kind of affirmation that they use. And what's Ken Honda's, like arigato?
Yeah.
Right? Arigato in, arigato out, something like that.
Yeah, which is thank you in Japanese.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. Thank you for going. See ya.
Go have fun with your friends and bring your friends back.
Please tell your friends about me.
Yeah.
Right?
Bring all your friends
because
back.
Think about it. If you were so dismissive to a friend and you treated a friend like crap, ultimately they'll say, I get the message. I'll stop hanging out with you.
Back to your point about Einstein, we are energy. It can't be created or destroyed. So if you have a field of like, I hate this, like it's very low frequency. Yeah. If you're using money as a way to expand your feelings of love and happiness, that attracts more of that. Start to practice with your physical money, speaking to it or relating to it in a new way. That practical application of when you write a check or when you spend money or when you receive money, simply saying thank you internally, sending it with love. Thinking of all the people it's going to help. If you're buying something, it's going to that place, but then that money moves out in new directions. You can think about all the places it's carrying out to that you can't even see. What do you think?
The power of your ripple.
Yeah.
I believe we transform the world by transforming ourselves. Imagine the impact the power of your ripple has on the planet. With you just pushing $5 or euros or pounds in a certain direction or pesos, and then creating that space for something new. We don't know what it will be, but something new to come into you. As Elizabeth said, trust. Trust. If you jumble up the letters of trust, you get strut. So if we can strut our trust and put it out there and act as if you're sitting on this giant pile of riches. Act as if you're just about to get or just got a diamond ring in the mail. Act as if, pick your thing, whatever it is, but don't play small in this area. Again, this is classic poverty consciousness, abundance consciousness. Let's play large. We don't have to live large, but let's play in larger arenas, and let's not move out of fear or desperation. And like I said, maybe you could begin your process just knocking down your debt, at least by the amount that it's growing by. Lastly, know that you are so worthy of receiving the riches of the universe. So let's begin our own journeys of happy money today. From the sweet spot of the universe, this is davidji, and I'm here with Elizabeth Winkler, the woman who is the embodiment of money growing on trees and receiving diamonds through the mail. So I would recommend that you follow her lead, because it's a great, great path to follow. And we'll see you on the next episode. Jamar, can you just sing a little bit of abundance to all of us as you guide us out?
I will not be afraid of the shadows in the dark. They will lead the way to the hidden pathways of the heart. In that secret place, that is where I find my start. The light, it is here to remove all my fears and to bring new sight. The light, it is love that will go to the deep to take me to new heights. The shadow and the light, there's no fountain, rock bottom. You hold it as your ornament, but don't rush past this moment.